Have you ever asked yourself the question of what makes an anime character physically attractive to you? And I don't just mean something as simple as liking a character because of her chest size, but I mean really diving deep into understanding the science of why we're attracted to certain features we find within an anime girl or even a real life girl or woman for that matter, and how this is used to manipulate us into liking said character. In truth, knowing this information in detail would help you understand why certain characters are created in the way they are physically, which results in us loving said characters and forking over our money for the sake of them. You could say this video is going to be me exposing a Magia Records plot to entice its viewers to not only play this game, but fork over their money due to showcasing and creating a girl simply for sex appeal. I promise you that by the time this video is over, you are going to have learned more about the science of physical attraction within a woman and history behind that attraction and how it relates to a certain character you may or may not already be familiar with. That's all coming up next, so stay tuned. Hoi, hoi, hoi. Hey, this is Mommy Sexual reporting for duty. We have the power to do anything. Hoi, 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 I've got a dag nasty penis. Hello there, I am P Nation. How's it going? This is Mommy Sexual reporting for duty, and I shall be your imperfect host for today. Hoi, hoi, hoi. It's funny because Magia Record for the most part keeps it pretty clean when it comes to not having any sexual undertones within most of the character designs presented within the series. However, this particular character right here is another story. In fact, I would go as far as to say this character was created with the intent of being sexy to the viewer, which I think plays a role in why you may find yourself playing this game, among other things, like playing with your left hand, for example. Though when I use the word sexy, I don't mean the raunchy, overexposed kind of sexy you might expect if you were watching an ecchi anime, but I would say she is more of a sophisticated, classy type of sexy. Though, in order for you to understand what I mean when I say this, we need to analyze her actual design as well as the entirety of her magical girl transformation sequence from the ground up, since there are a lot of hidden meanings behind both what's shown visually as well as the music which accompanies the transformation, since all these things are presented here in order to flaunt and ooze the sexuality of this character, whether you realize it or not. Now, firstly, for those who are completely unaware of who said character is, she is a character within Magia Record known as Mitama Yakumo. Though she's a magical girl, she is not powerful enough to fight witches herself. Instead, she makes a living enhancing the magic of the other magical girls in exchange for grief seeds. Now, if you've been following me on this channel, then you may already know part of my interest of this character is related to her legs. And the moment I noticed them, it was all over. Ooh! Ah! I have this memory of being a child and waiting for my mom to pick me up from school. I remember on one day in particular, I met the love of my life, and I guess we will refer to her as Cottage Cheese-chan. Cottage Cheese-chan did not have a face, or at the very least, she did not have a face that I remembered, but she did have wonderful features as it pertained to her legs. If I had to describe how her legs looked, they sort of resembled that of bread. Like, imagine two pieces of sourdough looking bread in front of you. Maybe they had heels attached to them as well. And looked totally delicious. This is strange. Because I'm pretty sure I must have been 8 years old at the time, and I just recall having such a large fascination with these bread-shaped legs that would just be jiggling all over the place, and I literally couldn't take my eyes off of them. Oh god, this is probably where my descent to perversion probably came from. Oh my god, help me. Anyways, yeah, I think I can honestly say Kadis Cheese-chan was my very first girlfriend as a little boy. Aside from this, when I was a little boy, I used to have this fascination with wrestling, even to the point of wanting to actually be one. I recall a certain female wrestler, and she went by the name Stacy Keebler, and her whole gimmick in wrestling was showing off her legs, mostly using them to distract wrestlers from their matches, which would cause them to lose. And I just remember being completely in love with her. She was so fucking hot. Due to having a fascination with legs my whole life, I assumed my physical attraction toward Mitama was just that, but the more I admired them, the more I realized there was actually something else going on with her design that made her attractive besides her legs. And it was after a time period of worshiping them for a while, I noticed my eyes seemed to pay special attention to the outfit she was wearing. Now, my first thought was that perhaps Mitama was created to have an hourglass figure. Now, for those who are unaware what an hourglass figure is, the hourglass figure is one of 4 traditional female body shapes. The hourglass shape is defined by a woman's body measurements. Hourglass body shapes have a wide bust, a narrow waist, and wide hips with similar measurement to that of the bust. This body shape is named for its resemblance to that of an hourglass, where the upper and lower half are wide and roughly equal, while the middle is narrow in circumference. Recent research indicates that men have a marked preference for women who have an hourglass figure. These studies found that this shape was even more highly preferred than breast size or facial features. While it is true that most men were initially drawn to a woman's cleavage, it was her hips and waist that were in fact what they found the most attractive. Scientists have concluded that having such a figure reflects positively on a woman's health and increases her rate of fertility, and this is what makes men find them attractive. The lower curves of an hourglass figure signify fertility, and men are biologically programmed to react accordingly. In fact, says a doctor, all men everywhere, regardless of age and culture, are drawn to the hourglass shape in a female figure. Fertility, for those that don't know, is related to the ability to conceive children. I mentioned earlier in this video that Mitama was a character that was created to intentionally be sexy and eye-appealing, which is why I believe she is able to catch my attention, though more so from her waist down, and given everything I expressed about the hourglass shape being an aspect of a woman that scientists have mentioned catches the eyes of men due to reproductive reasons as it relates to having children, it's no surprise why I found myself attracted to Mitama, and that she was intentionally created to have a body shape to get my attention, as well as many others. So one little thing that I noticed while I was actually in the process of editing this video is I keep saying the idea that Mitama's transformation is eye-appealing. I find it so interesting that every time this particular scene plays, you actually can see a blinking of an eye, which kind of puts emphasis on the idea of the fact that she is eye-appealing, because quite literally you can see an eye blinking as the camera is zooming up, which puts emphasis on the idea that she is meant to be eye-appealing. She is meant to get your attention. You see the eye that is blinking? Eye-appealing. I approve of this. It's just a little random thing that I noticed. Another thing that I want to say that I think is kind of valuable about this information in this video thus far is that if you're a person who's into drawing, like if you're an artist and you're into like illustrations and you're trying to figure out how to draw characters that make people, you know, gravitate toward them, whether it's making them cute or whatever, having this type of information can help you as an artist to determine how to sculpt your characters in such a way that could potentially get other people to love them, or you could use that to manipulate them to maybe be interested in your art or your character. It's just a little piece of information to keep in mind. Plus, when you watch anime from now on, you also can pay closer attention to how these characters are designed, and you can maybe pick up on these little subtle like things that are taking place that are meant to draw you, the viewer, in. It's obvious that making Mitama have this type of body shape was done very intentionally, which is not surprising because in truth, there are aspects to probably every girl within Magia record who have been crafted specifically to appeal to certain people. For example, I mentioned in my Magia record manga review that Iroha is crafted in a way to appeal more to the otaku audience who would be most likely playing the Magia record mobile game given her personality, looks, not to mention relatability since many of us can relate to being shy and reserved. And Mitama, I think, was created to attract maybe a more mature audience within the otaku culture, or just creating more variety of girls to look at within the game. I guess you can think of the game as a restaurant. They would have to be willing to offer us variety when it comes to the food we eat, aka different girls with different characteristics which are meant to pull people in and keep them satisfied and coming back for more. I personally think Mitama was created to cater to the more mature audience within the otaku crowd, meaning not only because of her figure, but evidence of this can also be found within her transformation sequence itself. Mitama and her look reminded me of that of a woman found in those really old black and white detective movies me and my mother used to watch as a little boy. You would sometimes find those really seductive evil chicks that would represent the trope known as Femme fatale and trick the main male lead into using their charms and feminine wails and ultimately would end up killing them, or at least come really close to doing so. These type of women always were cool and mysterious and had an air of sophistication about them. And also tended to be intelligent and were excellent manipulators. Which is actually kind of funny when you think about it, because manipulator, it's in the same way that Mitama manipulates soul gems by touching them, and it also doesn't help that the idea of her touching the soul gem also causes the girls that she touches to sometimes moan and make these little soft noises in very much the same way that a film noir type character would be trying to seduce her victim. So it's just very interesting that the joke of Mitama is that she is a coordinator that touches soul gems and manipulates them to make the girl stronger in the same way that a femme fatale girl may manipulate a guy and make his penis stronger while causing him to make the same types of sounds.
これって、もっとみんなをいじってもいいってことかしら。
Bruh.
Oh god, Mitama, you're so dirty! So I basically have this little thing that I posted on the community tab of like Iroha and Mitama. I kind of thought that this image was like really hot, and this was like a shipping that this is a pairing that I shipped like long before I really got into Magia record. So the idea is that I wanted to get one of you guys to guess of what the video is going to be about with just this one image alone. And this is like a comment that I got that is so funny, and the comment is, obviously, it's about adjusters doing adjuster things to improve soul gem performance. That is freaking brilliant. Mitama is doing exactly what she needs to do in order to improve Iroha's performance. I mean, of course, it's about an adjuster doing adjuster things to improve soul gem performance. That is freaking brilliant. Oh, I freaking love Mitama.
それじゃあ、服は脱いで。そこの寝台に横になってね。はい、わかり脱ぐ?
Whoever wrote Mitama found a way to encapsulate the whole idea of a femme fatale, but they just sort of crafted her in a way that would fit in a magical girl type of world and setting. I also feel Mitama represents the woman in these movies personality-wise, with the way she interacts with others. For example, she first appears stating that she misses Momoko Togami. Now, her mentioning that she misses Momoko upon seeing her is brushed aside by Momoko, stating that she has plenty of customers besides her. However, even though Momoko brushes this off, this sort of tactic of wordplay is something Mitama does very intentionally and very smartly as a woman who runs her own business, because rather than saying "welcome to my shop," as many owners would say when someone walks in, Mitama says, "I missed you." Now, when we think of the words "I miss you," this connects to something that a friend or someone really close to us would say upon meeting with them after a while. So saying this sends an unconscious trigger to our brains, which subconsciously allows us to let our guards down upon being involved in this type of interaction. Mitama, just by saying these words in an overly dramatic way to make it seem as though she actually means it, has the potential to send a self-conscious trigger within someone's psyche to give them the impression that they are receiving some form of affection from Mitama, which causes them to appreciate her due to Mitama making them feel loved in the idea they were thought of and missed. And in business, this type of wordplay and interaction is the very thing that has the potential to make a customer keep coming back for repeat visits, since this wordplay is a very crafty way to manipulate someone to think they're talking to a friend rather than a business owner. And in many cases, this would work just so long as the person in question was not familiar with Mitama like how Momoko is. I feel like the fact that Mitama is aware and able to use this type of wordplay shows she is very clever when it comes to conversing with other people, which sort of goes back to what I mentioned before about old detective movies that had these female villains using clever wordplay to get close to the main male lead before she tricked them in some way as a femme fatale. This is also further emphasized by the wordplay she uses with Iroha when she mentions telling her to relax as she touches her soul gem, seeing as it's very sensual and relaxing wordplay she uses to make Iroha drop her guard in her presence, which would enable her to power up her soul gem or do whatever she wanted to do to her in reality. This sort of falls in line with the seductive nature of how girls can be in a detective type movie, with seduction and wordplay and dropping down the guard of their victims. It's also mentioned in Mitama's backstory that she explains her magic is like a curse. It doesn't work on witches, but it can manipulate the magic of other magical girls. By purposely failing an adjustment, she can destroy an opponent from within. Now, the fact that she would even mention this means the idea has come to her mind more than once, which kind of falls in line with what I mentioned of her having that sophisticated, sexy look with a clever personality as shown in certain movies, and her ability to know how to speak to people in ways to manipulate them, like she did with Momoko, or even when she convinced Iroha to temporarily take off her clothes, even though it was a joke. I kind of take her ability to tampering with someone's soul gem the same as an evil seductress or femme fatale able to use poison to kill victims after she seduces them with wordplay, which kind of makes you wonder if Magia Record ever wanted to create a villain out of Mitama. They certainly have ways to do it given her nature and given her ability and her personality. Like, imagine if a villain Mitama was the type that lured magical girls into her shop, uses sophisticated and sensual wordplay to seduce them by way of making them feel special and getting them to drop their guard by promising to strengthen their soul gems and then killing them afterward. Actually, would you guys like me to make a theory using this idea in the future? Let me know in the comments. Now, I want to go back to Mitama's transformation sequence since I feel like there's much in her transformation sequence which says a lot about her and her sophisticated smexiness. Firstly, at the start of her transformation, you're able to hear music playing in the background, which resembles that of a saxophone. There was once a time in history where before the saxophone was associated with love like it is today, it was originally associated with sex. And it was substantially sexualized because of its use in early jazz music. This unconscious association of the saxophone with basic instinctive human traits, particularly those pertaining to physical and sensuality, were conceived as negative attributes in the mind of some in 1920s. The instrument's ability to moan was often perceived to be an unwelcome, if widespread, characteristic. The point was made explicitly by one commentator in 1921 who observed that those moaning saxophones and the rest of the instruments with their broken, jerky rhythm makes a purely sensual appeal. And the reason why I mention this is because at the start of the video, Mitama's character design bleeds mature, sophisticated sexuality, and the music being played during her sequence forces this idea even more. You also see her taking a shower within said transformation, naked as well, which I believe is done to further emphasize her sexuality within said transformation as well. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Does this make you view Mitama in a different way? Or how does this make you view Mitama as a character overall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, do me a favor and please hit the like button on this video. It really helps in supporting the channel and making sure that more Madoka and Magia record fans are able to see these videos like yourselves. So please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if you found it entertaining or you found it valuable. And also, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on. This is basically a channel where I talk about Madoka Magica, Magia record. Definitely subscribe. For those that want to take the support a step further, we also have a Patreon page where you can support me for as little as $1 a month. It's not something that you have to do, but it's just for those who would like to support what I do a little bit more. And you'll also be able to see videos like these early. So definitely head over to Patreon if that sounds interesting to you, and I will catch you in the next video. This is Mommy Sexual signing out. Peace. Goodness gracious, what in Madoka's name is she doing to her tubby hole?